frequency. Spectrum can also be shared based on time and space dimensions. We encourage the EU decision makers also to consider the potential of unlicensed spectrum. Think about garage door openers, key fobs for cars, baby phones, cordless phones, Bluetooth and Wi-Fi. These are only possible by low power and spatial reuse and temporal reuse. Cognitive devices will make exclusive licensing, as we knew it in the past, totally obsolete, or obsolete to a very large extent, because the current spectrum policy framework dates back to the 1920s, when there were no smart devices that could listen before they talk. Next point, maybe one should not rely on mobile operators to provide service in rural areas when they are assigned part of the digital dividend or even more spectrum. It will be most important to require universal service requirements and coverage obligations, otherwise this is not going to happen. Mobile networks are already overloaded, and mobile operators are resorting to free spectrum like Wi-Fi already to load traffic off their mobile networks and get it into fiber as soon as possible. In urban areas, fiber will be the only solution to the growing, exploding demand for new bandwidth. And to close with a citation, I don't cite Bill Gates like Mr. Hökmark before, but I want to cite Larry Page of Google about white spaces, which we talk about in the next workshop. White spaces is Wi-Fi on steroids. Thank you very much.
Please.
Thank you. My name is Harvey Thomas from the Fellowship of European Broadcasters. We represent both the silent majority and the silenced minority of those who are active communicators in the religious field. My question is, following up what Philip Lamberts was saying earlier, can there be some kind of equal level opportunity for the small players in this new framework to have a fair chance of getting necessary sections of the spectrum, possibly on a multi-local level? We cannot have the advantages of huge cross-cultural and cross-national things simply because the languages are totally different for the communication. So can there be some kind of protection, as was suggested earlier, for faith-based organisations, social organisations, and for that matter SMEs, to have access in a fair way?
Thank you. And then the lady, yes, exactly you.
Thank you. Vicky Hanna-Emilsson speaking on behalf of ITRE, the European Competitive Telecoms Association. I just wanted to pick up on something that Ms. Cosgrave had said about the risks of having a fragmented approach to allocation across the EU, in particular the effects that that can have on the EU's global competitiveness. And just wanted to offer some pragmatic suggestions about how that can be approached to ensure that competitiveness can be maintained globally. Of course, it's for member states the competence to decide how to allocate the spectrum, but perhaps there could be some guidelines offered to member states of effective ways to do that in order to maintain competition within the EU markets and also maintain effective competition for EU globally.
Thank you. More questions? Yes, one here. Okay.
Hello, David Happy. I'm an economist and guest of Malcolm Harbour MEP. Two observations from the United Kingdom's independent spectrum broker and one reasonably light-hearted personal view. The developing story of spectrum exploitation and exploration reminded me of a story about Christopher Columbus. He started out not quite knowing where he was going, arrived at the wrong place, didn't know where he was, and returned not knowing where he had been, but still achieved something spectacular. I think perhaps we're all in that mode a little bit because we're all still learning as we go along. One thing, though, times have changed, and since spectrum policy has to freshen up a bit, the UK's independent spectrum broker had two observations that he asked me to convey. One of those was that He's fully supported, obviously, the Commission taking a really good look at this whole policy generally, and specifically the two things. What is the role and impact of spectrum liberalisation and trading, and how should it be regulated going forward, including a look at the unlicensed spectrum options, which I don't think I've heard mentioned. The second thing was, if our aim was really to get on with effective deployment of services, I know that in some places deployment, I know at 2.6 was delayed by 3 years, despite the best efforts of all concerned. How will we deliver that? A final personal observation to Mr. Bovum's point. I know that on the emergency services in the US, I think they use something like 5 times more spectrum than we make available within the EU, and the economic answer is simply to do opportunity cost analysis. 4 seconds left.
Thank you very much. The second one there, please. You.
Thank you, Chair. On behalf of BT, I would certainly welcome this summit and the opportunity to help develop the European Spectrum Policy Programme. I think for BT there's 2 important elements of the programme that I wanted to stress, and those are keeping innovation and competition at the forefront of the European Policy Programme. To explain those 2 points, I think firstly on the innovation point, in the past, an example was Wi-Fi, that a licence-exempt technology that I think has been a tremendous success in Europe. That was helped by previous Commission action. And I think for the future, we need to look at other new innovative technologies, such as femtocells, cognitive radio, etc., that requires sharing of spectrum. So I think sharing of spectrum for new technologies is a really important point. And my second point is the promotion of competition. I agree with the remarks of the ITRE speaker that regulated wholesale access may have a role to play increasingly in the future to enable competition at the service provider level. I think this is important as we see the trend to consolidate in the industry, the requirement for wider channels, and perhaps not enough spectrum to support all the networks, particularly in the digital dividend spectrum. So in summary, I think my points are that we would like to see innovation and competition at the forefront of the European Spectrum Policy Programme. Thank you.
Thank you. And then the next.
Ja, ich kann schneller sprechen auf Deutsch, darum Herr.
I can speak faster in German. Apologies to the interpreters. Harold Gubbets is my name. We've got something like 19 million listeners as the biggest mobile provider. I think the question is how we can best use the spectrum, how we can use it most efficiently, and that means that we have to see the balance between sustainable competition and usage in terms of the consumers, the price to consumers, and how we can cover blank areas out in the countryside or whatever. And the GSM directive did actually refer to that by saying that we need, when making new spectrum available in its allocation, we need to consider the aspect of competition. In Germany, at the moment, we do have auctions, and you've got different people such as Telefonica, E+, and others who participate, and the EC does so as well. So I'd be very interested to hear from the EP or EC representatives, or even representatives from the member states, where they stand on this, and how important you consider the competition dimension in allocation of the available spectrum in terms of efficient use and full coverage of further removed areas.
Still we have some time. Yeah, someone there. Oh, okay, there. Okay, please.
Thank you. My name is Jeppe Jepsen from Motorola, from the part of Motorola that deals with government and public safety. I would like to invite the audience to compare Internet and intranet. How many of our organizations actually use the Internet at home in our organizations? I think we all use the intranet. And why is it? because the intranet gives us control, availability and security. And that's exactly why the emergency services also need to have their intranet on spectrum. And as society goes broadband, also as we heard, in the rural areas, please don't forget